Dear friends, good evening. It's Rabbi Laskin here in our show Conversations with Jewish Influencers. And today we are actually in very special days, few days before Rosh Hashanah, before the New Year. The last less than 12 days, every day before Rosh Hashanah is a day when you can change 1 month in the past year. It's a day for transformation, a day for change. It's a very special time. And in this special time, we have a very special guest, a very colorful soul, I would say so, a very special woman from Philadelphia, Sophia Sarah Esther Tamarkin, that came here immigrated many years ago from Soviet Union, got master's degree here in the United States, became a successful business lady, a life coach, a writer for Chabad.org, a yoga teacher, and she actually wrote a play that we'll discuss as well. So many talents, thank God. Sophia, good evening.
Hello, I'm so honored to be here. And Rabbi Laskin, we have been acquainted for quite a few years. I've been privileged to attend Shabbatons and listen to the music of your beautiful soul and the music of your beautiful mother, who inspires us all with her talents. And I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I do remember your lectures at our National Russian Shabbaton, and when you was telling about all the cities and the places and the souls that you met, and always with such a talent to inspire people. And I'm very happy that we have this chance tonight to meet and to discuss about transformation, about challenges, about difficulties, and how to overcome it, transcendence, as we spoke. And I remember there's a joke that I like very much. It's an old joke about a famous guru somewhere there in Nepal. And a lady from Israel, Sarah Abramovich, she decided one day, I go to Nepal to see this guru. She takes one airplane, then she takes a helicopter, and then she takes a boat. And finally, she comes to the high mountain, and she finally finds him. And then it was such a big line, she was need to wait for about half a year till she can meet him. And she said, no problem, I will wait. So she's waiting for so long. And then after this half a year, they told her, listen, the guru don't have time. You have 3 words. You can tell him 3 words, no more. Okay. So she comes to the guru and she tells him 3 words. Moshe, tachzor habayta. Moshe, come back home. And when I spoke today, I said that it's a days of transformation, of change. But to be honest, I'm not so right. Because in Hebrew, it doesn't say transformation. In Hebrew, it doesn't say change. In Hebrew, it says tshuva. And tshuva is to come back. To come back to your home, to come back to your roots, to come back to your soul. And every soul has its own unique path to return, to come back. And I want you to start from I know that you have an incredible story, but at least in short, to share with us about your special return, about your special path.
Well, I'm very honored to share just a little tidbit about my return. When I was about 13 years old, my family met Rabbi Shem Tov in Philadelphia, Rabbi Abraham Shem Tov, and his beautiful wife, Batsheva. And actually, it was my grandmother, and we'll talk about her later, who met her at a supermarket. We went through 2 refugee camps, and in refugee camps in Italy and Austria, like many Soviet immigrants, we were able to bargain. Every penny counted, or whatever the currency it was, depending where we were. And my grandmother was our warrior. She would bargain at the market. So when we finally arrived in Philadelphia, she proceeded to do the same thing and bargain at a ShopRite, but in Yiddish. So that was a very colorful event, and Mrs. Batsheva Shem Tov was right behind her, and she told her that my grandmother was not supposed to bargain in the store and also not supposed to buy treif chicken. See, this was the first time my grandmother heard the word treif, which means not kosher, since literally her own childhood. So thus we started a very strong relationship, and Rabbi Shem Tov took my family amongst with other families that arrived in late 1989 or 1990s to meet the Rebbe. And to me, this still is one of the most meaningful and one of the most profound memories of my entire life. And as I share in my articles, I wrote an article on Chabad.org. I would love for the listeners to read it, because I feel like in a minute, I cannot really sum up that story. That article took me probably
And they're
years
beautiful
to write.
articles. I read many of them. So
Years to write, because I think some experiences just can't be put into words because they're too profound. But as Rabbi Kiva Tatz, he's my current teacher, he says that, you know, when you have a flash of lightning, you have an orientation where to go in life. So if I was to sum up my experience of standing next to the Rebbe, in front of the Rebbe, I would say that I had a flashing lightning inside my own soul, and I met myself. My article is actually called Meeting the Rebbe, Meeting Myself. Because, you know, it's a funny quote that was said by Walt Emerson. You would think that it wouldn't be applicable now, but it very much is. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
beautiful.
So as a Soviet child, I did not tap into that potential yet. We were immigrants. My parents were lost in the new country. It was a very challenging time, like for most of your listeners who have the same story as mine. We all came here. We didn't know how to navigate in our new life. And by meeting the Rabbi, I really met myself, because through his beautiful blue eyes, I was able to see the reflection of my authentic, pure soul that I didn't even know existed. So if I was to sum it up, I think that this is where my journey began.
This is really beautiful. And you know, it's reminded me actually when you said about meeting yourself, about the famous story when famous Rabbi Weinrab from Baltimore, he was the head of the OU, and when he was 40 years old, he had a lot of questions about God, about life, and he called the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Rabbi Gorner picked up the phone, and he says, I'm calling a Jew from Baltimore, and I would like to ask the Rebbe some questions about creation. And the Rebbe next to Rabbi Gorner stands and says, tell him there's a Jew in Baltimore, Rabbi Weinrab, but he can talk to him. He says, yes, but this is Rabbi Weinrab himself speaking. And then the Rebbe answered him, there's a moment in life when you need to talk to yourself. And this is really what happened. And I want to tell about the moment that you start to talk to yourself. And we're speaking now about the time that we all need to talk to ourselves, because this is time before Rosh Hashanah. But when you're starting this conversation, it's not easy. It's not easy to take responsibility, to fight with yourself, to fight with your habits. So if you can share your experience.
Absolutely, I'll be honored to. When I give lectures, I like to start with a pacifier story. When a baby is crying, the mother gives the baby pacifier. Perhaps it's not time for the nourishment yet, not for the milk. So the baby would take the pacifier and try to suck at it, thinking if there's the milk coming. But then if the mother continues to do this, the baby just doesn't take it, it spits it out, because it knows that it's fake. The same idea goes for our reality. I think we're given a lot of different pacifiers that are lacking real nourishment. And some people are addicted to shopping. Some people are addicted to nonstop Netflix. Some people are addicted to, different things. I don't want to minimize anyone's troubles, and we all have something we're struggling with. But the idea is that the real nourishment comes from the compass that leads you within yourself. I really like the story where a young sailor asked a very knowledgeable captain how he's able to roam the seas and be so comfortable. And he said to him that the secret is that he has his compass. Without the compass, he can't be free. So I feel like without our Jewish Torah, without our knowledge of who we are and how we're connected to the infinite light, we are really that sailor that is stuck in sea without any kind of navigation techniques, and it's scary and it's dark and it's dangerous.
100%. And but we are actually, as we said, few days before Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, the new year, the head of the year, it's the only Jewish holiday that actually we celebrate 48 hours in Israel as well, and the whole world. And 48 in Hebrew is moach, 40 is mem, chet, 8 is chet, is moach, brain, is the brain of the whole year. How you behave, how you think, whatever you do, it's depend all your year. And there's one special moment that speaks to me personally very much, and it's when we read the Torah on Rosh Hashanah. So we always read usually something that connected to something that happened on this day. And we all know that Rosh Hashanah is the day when human being, the first man, the first creation was created, is the birthday of mankind. And you will expect to read in the Torah about Adam, how he was created. No, nothing. Totally ignorance. You speak about Avraham Avinu, the first Jew, with all respect, it's not your day, it's not your birthday, and you speak about Avraham Avinu and all, and you ask yourself, 1 second, why we ignore Adam Arishon? This is his day, we should read about him. And there's a beautiful explanation of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he said the next as follows. He says, you see, Adam Arishon was created in this day, but the same day God told him, don't eat from one tree, and he didn't do it. He says, I will do whatever I want. And when he asks him why he did it, he says, not me, it's my wife. Chava says, not me, it's the snake. They was blaming each other. And Adam said to God, I ate and I'm going to eat more. I don't take responsibility on my actions. And then God says, listen, we have nobody to talk to. That's it. Avraham Avinu was a total different story without getting to all the details. So we know beautifully, Avraham Avinu, his father tried to kill him. His family tried to kill him, and Avraham Avinu go against the whole world. And he never blamed, not his father, not his mother, not his sisters. He always say one thing, I am taking responsibility. And he became this symbol in life of kindness, of givingness and everything. So therefore, Rosh Hashanah is the day to take responsibility. So we read about Abraham, he's our symbol, and not about Adam Harishon who wasn't able to do it. And now I'm coming to our life. When it's not easy, not to blame others. When it's not easy, to take responsibility when it's needed. Coming to life. So here's my question to you. How actually as a lady that in Soviet Union didn't had all this, the Torah education, everything, in one moment you need to take responsibility to go against many things in life. What's your input?
Well, I also don't want to minimize, the struggle, because I do think it's a continuous process of growth.
It's a constant struggle. So we're speaking about struggles.
Right, of course. I think that all of us are growing. We're all on the journey, and I think that when I speak, I like to actually quote what the Rebbe said to a struggling teenager who told the Rebbe that he was wondering why God would make life so complicated, constant transitions, and why he couldn't be created with black and white views, and he could be really like an angel, where life would not be full of challenges. And it's difficult for all of us, especially so many of your listeners from the former Soviet Union. It's so difficult to change, and you might know what to do, but actually taking the next step, it's very challenging. So the Rebbe replied to him that the difference between a photograph and a painting is tremendous. A photograph is sold for dollars or pennies, depending. It's very cheap. It's perfect, but there's nothing that a person that took a photograph, it did not include a person's effort. Yet the painting is a reflection not only of a subject, but of the artist as well. We are all a reflection of the quote unquote the artist, the capital A, of our creator, of our Father in heaven. So when you realize that you're not a photocopy, you're not a picture, you're not a carbon copy like another almost 7 billion people in the world, you're unique, your map to yourself is unique, your journey is unique, your purpose is unique, and your challenges are unique. I think you're faced with the decision that you have to discover who you are, and you do have to take that journey called life very seriously.
100%. And there's only one small question. So how? What's the path, or what's the tidbits, or how you personally overcome some of the challenges that you had in this path?
Well, again, I'm going to try to answer with a story, because I think
we love stories.
Baal Shem Tov thought that, stories are very powerful. There is an allegory about a person that was trying to collect money to take a voyage from one city to another, but he didn't want to travel like everybody else. He wanted to buy a first-class ticket, and he did, but the problem was it was for half the destination. So the conductor came and escorted him out in the middle of the field. So he did travel in comfort, but it was for a very short time. I think the road to success is continual effort. I have a life coach, Rabbi Niven, who lives in Israel, and he says that sweat is the currency of God. Sweat is the currency of God. We're not responsible for the results, but we can be responsible for our toil, our intentions, our efforts. And obviously, we very little have control over the situation we find ourselves in, but the way we react to it and respond to it in our own psyche, in our own inner world. So I would probably have to sum it up by saying that it has to be a steady process, but a very consistent one.
Beautifully said. And Sarah Esther Sophia, what inspires you? What's, again, I'm sure every one of us, we're all human beings and we all have our moments. And we have moments when we're failing, when there's a difficulty as a result of stress, especially nowadays, when so many people in so much stress. But there are things that always inspire you and help you to overcome it. So what personally to you, what helps you in your daily life?
I'm going to go back to the wisdom of our Torah, where it did not depend whether or not a Kohen, a priest, was in a good mood or not. He continued to bring sacrifices in our temple. The consistency of everyday life, I do have, like everybody, all our listeners, are very dark and very gloomy days. But I don't stop my commitment. I may do it with a little less vigor. I might do it with less enthusiasm. But every day when I wake up, I start by saying a prayer of gratitude for opening my eyes. There are days when I'm singing, as I say, but there are days when I just can barely utter the words, like all of us with life. I think that the secret is to be consistent and really not to listen to this inner voice that tells you that, if you're not doing it with too much enthusiasm, it doesn't matter, because I think that is the voice of darkness. And if you do stop, then it's very hard to start again. So decide to do something, don't stop, continue with it.
This is beautiful said, and as the famous conversation, the Talmud on what's actually the most important pasuk, the most important verse in the Torah, and there's so many, Shema Israel, or love your fellow Jew, and by the end it says is the moment when you bring sacrifice in the night and bring sacrifice in the morning, woke up in the morning, in the night, when everything is good and when everything is bad, but you still do it. This is the most important moment, the most important verse in the whole Torah, because we won't have nothing without this. And when we speak about how to be able to have consistency, what I remember? It's bringing me back to the Soviet Union. It's bringing me back to our babushkas, our dedushkas, pradedushki, prababushki, because if me and you today, we're sitting here and we're speaking, it means that both of us and millions of Jews all over the world, it means our 4 generations back, 3 generations back, 5 generations back, our grandparents was ready to sacrifice their lives to stay Jewish and to be consistent in whatever they was able to. They was needed to starve, not to eat, so many things. And in Judaism, we don't say the word history, his story. In Hebrew, we don't have this. We have iskor, memory. Because these memories create us, our personalities. And I know that your grandmother, that we see the picture actually behind you, you had a very special connection, and she passed away recently. I wanted you to share a little bit about the roots, because those roots really will make us.
I'm so honored that you asked. Thank you so much for that. My grandmother Zelda, whose picture is behind me, I dedicate, of course, this program to her memory, but really to her life, because she's not a memory. She's a living legacy of what a person can overcome and transcend and remain vibrant and grateful and kind. My grandmother was born in 1924, and I'm happy to read a fragment of the play, but I'm just going to sum up right now her story, because the story is full, and the segment I'm going to read is just for a few minutes. Her mother died in childbirth during the childbirth of her younger sister, so she was just 2.5 years old, almost 3, and she was raised by her always tired and exhausted and working father, raising 3 orphan girls. She has actually had a very difficult childhood that later had a stepmother, a complicated situation, a complicated relationship. And unfortunately, after she got married in late 1930s, I believe it was, she became a widow very quickly after that, a few years after, because her husband unexpectedly drowned. So she was a widow, an orphan, and a few years after she became a widow, her younger daughter, my aunt, fell from a playground and hit her head and became handicapped for life. And she has been marching through life with a very strong, positive attitude despite unthinkable challenges, of course, including immigration to the United States, leaving everything behind. It has been a journey of a lot of transcendence and pain. And looking at this generation, and I think our listeners now can probably relate to, the stories of their grandmothers or their mothers or great grandmothers, people that were born right after the revolution or before the revolution, what they've been through, what they've been able to overcome, the hunger, the poverty, the fears of Stalin's persecutions. And many of them continue to be grateful givers and did not break. They continued to march through life and held their head high, and they celebrated their Jewish heritage, even if it wasn't done openly. But they would tell their children that, we're Jews, we have to marry Jews, and it's something that we should learn from. Rabbi, I'm wondering if you want me to read a little act.
Yeah, actually, I would love to hear the play. And first of all, I want to it's a really true inspiration, and thank you for sharing this with us. I remember a lot about my babushka, how she was she went through the blockade in Leningrad and how she was able to do circumcision to my uncle. And this is really what inspired us to be Jewish. As Golda Meir said once to the Jews in Moscow when she was an ambassador, she came to thousands of Jews in Moscow and she says, "Thank you for staying Jew. Thank you for this." And I want to tell you, before you're going to read us about the play, what inspired you, how it became that suddenly you're writing a play? Because I know that's something that you didn't do before.
Thank you for asking. My grandmother died in May of this year, May 6th. It was a moment of just a shock, even though, she was almost 96 years old. But some people are so vibrant, you just think they will live forever because they're so full of life despite of age. It's such a privilege to be around this type of a person, right, despite of their age. And when we really started putting our thoughts together about her life as a family, we discovered that about 20 years ago, and I would love to share this with the listeners because I think this is one of my most precious possessions now. She wrote her story in Russian language, an entire, like the children's book where you empty book of loose leaf of paper. I bought it for her and I asked her to write. And I don't even remember when she did it. It was many years ago when we first immigrated to the United States, over 20 years ago. And now, for no money in the world, we could, have her tell us her story. So much of it I've literally just translated. Of course, I've added a little bit of artistic creation to this.
Sure about
but a lot of it is her own words. And I would like to suggest humbly to our listeners that, the generation that is, been through all this, they're not going to live forever. And we should use this opportunity to ask them to write their stories. And now there's so much technology, we can record them. And then 20, 30 years from now, this will be a priceless gift to our own children and their children. It's incredible to find these memoirs and her memories alive. So this is what I'd like to make sure that the listeners also have an opportunity to do with their loved ones, because it's so precious.
100%. Thank you so much. So we're going now to have a premiere of it's a play. How long is this play? It's like an hour?
Well, I'm hoping that, also if anybody from our listeners would like to, connect to me with the entire play as a production. It's a one-woman show. Of course, I'll be happy to read it. I'm not a professional actress, far from it, but I'm doing my best as an authentic, as an authentic granddaughter. As the play itself, I wrote after I took a class in Princeton University. So this is I was guided by professionals. So it's a little bit over an hour, the entire play, with a lot of different lessons, ups and downs of a person's life. And of course, it can be performed over Zoom. So those of our listeners that are interested in the entire play, and they have an event, a fundraiser, or any kind of a situation where this could be appropriate as a main event, I could be very happy to speak about it. I can be contacted at my email, which is howdoigrow@hotmail.com. howdoigrow@hotmail.com. I'm also always happy to answer people's questions. I have people write to me from all parts of the world. So if you have any questions and I don't know the answer, then I will direct you to Rabbi Laskin.
This is beautiful. So, Sophia, we're going now to have a premiere of fragment from this play. What's the name of the play?
The name of the play is Zelda's Unbroken Heart.
This is really beautiful. This is really special.
Thank you.
So, Sophia?
I was born a lifetime ago in July of 1924 in a city called Samara on Volga River in Soviet Union. There was so much despair, hunger, and poverty after the World War and the Communist Revolution of 1917. My mother died when I was just 3 years old in childbirth with my younger sister. My older sister, Rachel, was 5, and the baby Oля, named after my mom, was only 2 hours old. What I remember about my mama is how she liked drinking her tea, dipping cubes of sugar pieces into our hot water. It's funny how the memory works, and we remember the most trivial things. My 2 sisters and I were raised by our loving and forever exhausted father, David, who worked round the clock to feed his 3 little motherless daughters. I don't remember this, of course, but Papa told us that Mama, when Mama died, he covered all her windows for the morning week of Shiva. When the week passed, Papa went to the city's bathhouse, and an old man looked at him and exclaimed, "My son, your face is so young, but your hair is completely white. How is it possible?" Papa didn't know that he went gray from the shock of losing his wife. He was 27 years old when he was widowed with 3 of us girls. I remember that his hair was always white. How can I explain the reality of those days? We lived in a tiny room with all 3 girls sleeping on the top of a big chest that contained all our belongings. Papa found a thin mattress to put on the chest and made it into our bed. We had 1 set of sheets, and it was time to wash them, so we had to take turns to watch them dry on clothesline. One day, it was my turn, and I got distracted by a friend. And when I turned around, I saw gypsies running away with our clothes and sheets. I still remember how I was running after them, screaming and begging for help. A policeman heard me and came to my rescue. I didn't have a single thought about my safety, only about the stolen sheets and the clothes, because there was no way to replace them, you see. This is all I was thinking about, running and crying. This is what people cried about those days. I remember Papa coming home from work late at night, talking us with bedtime fairy tales. We didn't understand that he was working 16-hour shifts in a grocery store to make the ends meet. Papa was falling asleep in the middle of every story from exhaustion and lack of sleep while reliving his workday. Papa would start, "And the Red Riding Hood went to see her grandma, and the kilo of rice is 2 rubles, plus the bread is 3 rubles, plus 9 kopeek." And the 3 of us would scream, "Papa, Papa, what rice? You were telling us about the Red Riding Hood. Krasная Шапочка." Papa would wake up and start again. Where did I leave off? Oh yes, the wolf said to the Red Riding Hood, "The flour is 3 rubles today, plus you already took a loaf of bread. It's for the next person." We were holding our stomachs from laughter as Papa was dozing off again, innocently wondering, why was Papa falling asleep and interrupting the story? We were three motherless girls. How could we ever understand how much weight Papa had on his shoulders? I remember a little boy sitting on a stoop in a neighborhood. The boy was covered in lice and was begging for food. I still feel my heart racing as I think of that day. I ran inside the house yelling, Papa, Papa, я хочу отдать свой хлеб этому мальчику. I want to give this boy my bread, the boy who is sitting outside. Papa knew I could not be stopped despite our own hunger. I snatched a piece of bread and stormed into the street. When I walked up to the boy, he grabbed the bread with both hands, stuffing it into his mouth. He was so hungry and weak. I'm reliving this incident again and again for so many years. I think and wonder if the boy survived. I often dream about this boy. I wish I could have done more for him. Hunger changes you forever. Голод — это страшно. I never throw away food. Food is sacred. Sometimes I bake croutons out of stale bread and hold them in my mouth for a long time, remembering the feeling of hunger. And I remember how, as children, we would take these crumbs and hold them in our mouths, and they would swell up and seem bigger in size. But you can't fool hunger for a long time. It would only be a while until you'd be hungry again and your stomach would be rumbling. Hunger is a horrible suffering. Это очень страшно. During my childhood years, people lived in terror. There were years of Stalin's repression. People reported their neighbors to KGB for really no reason. Neighbors were scared to trust each other. Many people disappeared without a trace after being interrogated by the government about their communist agendas and propaganda. One evening, Papa came home with a big teapot called Russian samovar for us to drink tea, chai. A neighbor suspected that Papa was hiding something illegal inside of it. He reported Papa to the local authorities, and in the evening, police knocked on our door and arrested Papa. The soldiers came stomping their feet, stomping. I remember that sound of marching feet. It's a horrible sound. I remember sitting on the chest bed with my sisters, afraid to move and talk. The terror we felt for those 36 hours while Papa was away could not be described by words. Papa returned that next evening, badly beaten, broken, and exhausted. There was no evidence found against him. Yet this was a real miracle. Now I understand that many disappeared from these interrogations, and evidence wasn't necessarily what decided people's fate. This is a real gift that Papa was back. Typhus claimed around 3 million people in 1920s. When I was about 7 years old, the epidemic hit about close to home. All three of us became ill with this horrible illness. We had high fever and terrible weakness, stomach pain. While my sisters remained conscious, I succumbed to the worst of the disease. Papa paid for a doctor to visit us. This was a complicated and expensive ordeal. The doctor examined us one at a time and told Papa, David, you're a smart man, and I will be honest with you. Your oldest, Rachel, and youngest, Oля, they have a chance to survive. Bring them to the city hospital. We'll do our best. But your middle one, Zelda, she won't live. Don't waste your money or time. She has been unconscious for 3 days. She has no chance to live. I heard Papa's words. He said to the doctor, I will take all 3 of them to the hospital. I won't give up until she stops breathing. I'll always remember Papa's answer. He had hope. The hospital, if you can call it that, big room with hundreds of beds. Papa sat on a chair near me. He dozed off and dreamt of our mama. In her dream, she came and gave 4 loaves of challah bread for each one of us and said that Zina, as she called me, she needs an extra one to get her strength back. So give her 2, she said to Papa. Papa woke up by my voice. After 3 days of in and out of consciousness, I woke up and asked for a drink of water. This was a true miracle, a message from the other side. You see, Soviet government, they prohibited all religious observance. Yet no authorities have power to remove faith from the hearts of people. We knew that my mom, she was there for us in our darkest moments. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. I'm saying it's really incredible, first of all, mesmerizing. It's a
It's
book.
also very emotional. It was hard for me to start. I'm sorry I stumbled because it's a very emotional journey.
It is very emotional for me because, again, Lefsichnas, for all of us who remember the stories from our babushkas and from the Soviet Union, it's bring back, and I'm so grateful to you, first of all. I'm sure that your babushka was now up in heaven having a lot of nachas. And now I understand from where the strength, I always saw a lot of strength in your soul, and now I understand from where it's coming. And by all of us, I think that, like in this famous story when was a famous rabbi in the Holocaust, I don't remember now the name, when the Nazis told him you need to jump over a huge pit and it was impossible. And the rabbi jumped. And his student next to him jumped after him. And he was able to survive. And the student asking the rabbi, how you did it? He says, it wasn't me. I was holding my Zaydis, my grandparents, my great-grandparents. Was them, it wasn't me. And after such a powerful, small part that we just heard, and I'm sure the whole play is amazing, how you explain these giants, our grandparents, now speaking about your babushka, and I'm sure you had a lot of conversations, what inspired her? Through all the odds, what was the key?
I think that our generation is plagued by expectations. I think we have this sense of entitlement, and especially the new generation, our children, we feel entitled. I think the secret of the people that lived before us and survived all unimaginable challenges, wars and hunger and poverty and a lot of loss and death, is because they didn't have expectation. They didn't focus on what is owed to them, but rather they focused on what they can bring to the world, not only from the religious standpoint. My grandmother Zelda was a doctor, and she spent her entire life healing people, and she was worried about her patients day and night. She wasn't victimizing herself, and she didn't feel like she wasn't dealt the right card, and she never felt that people should feel sorry for her. I think she would even resent that. She was a strong woman that, yes, it's true, she had a lot of challenges, but our generation, we feel so much like we're entitled. We feel like the world has to cater to us, and even the relationship with our creator. A lot of people that are starting, they feel very discouraged if they need something, and they've already prayed twice, and they wonder why it didn't appear at their doorstep. And there's no. I think we're not humble. That's probably just to sum it up. And I say this also very humbly about myself. I'm not, criticizing anyone, but starting with myself. We're not humble. We feel entitled.
This is beautifully said. And when I heard now the story of your grandmother, of Zelda, it reminded me what we spoke in the beginning of the show about Avram Avinu and Adam. We had one person, Adam Arishon, who had everything, but he became a victim. Everybody was blamed of somebody else, and he didn't took responsibility. And we had Avram Avinu, who his father sent him to the fire, and everything happened, but he chose to give and not to be a victim. This is the story of Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, we're reading about Avram Avinu, and this is the story of Zelda, and this is the story of us, of the choice that we have in life to become a victim or to choose life and to choose to give and to choose to see light in every opportunity, even so in times when it's not so easy. And one of, I think, the most important ideas of the Hasidic movement, and we just had a few days ago the birthday of the great Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, is happiness. How important to be happy, and how important now to be happy especially, and to feel the light, but let's put this way, it's not always easy. And the Baal Shem Tov said that in every second, your life depends not only from what you do, not only from what you say, but from the vibration of your soul, from what you feel at the second, from your thoughts. So let's speak about Zelda. What kept her happy? What keep us happy?
I think that giving is the most rewarding of all emotions we can experience. We're taught that we're blessed on the path that we choose for ourselves. God blesses us with free will. We're not carbon copy pictures. But what is the significance of a choice if it's made by a robot, if it's programmed? Our free choice means so much to ourselves, to our world, to our creator, because we have that. We can choose the path. And when we do choose to go on the road of giving and transcending and bringing the light, God sends us more opportunities to do so. I mean, Rabbi Laskin, I think you're a perfect example of that. You have devoted your life. I have a right to my opinion about how much you have done for the community, for where you're immediately located in New York, and for the world now that so much has gone online and viral. And I hear people quote your shows and quote your sayings and quote your teachings. Because if you put yourself on a path of light and you want to be the conduit of light and holiness in this world, Hashem gives you opportunities, things that you couldn't imagine would happen, they do, because you open yourself as a vessel and you want to be used as that channel of godliness into the mundane world. So I'm so honored and privileged to be here with you. And I'm sure on behalf of all your listeners, we thank you for all that you do for this world and for the Jewish world and Jewish community.
You know, we're only vessels, and thank you for these words, but thank you, Sophia, for what you do. And it's honored that you're with us today. And we really, every one of us is a unique soul, is a unique note in the symphony of Hashem. And as you said beautifully, our mission is, again, we have challenges, we have mistakes, this is life, but we try to be a vessel. As the famous question, what is health? Yeah, everybody now is looking for health from COVID, from everything. And health is actually the moment when you don't feel your body. The moment you don't feel your body, and you're healthy. Because if you feel some this hair pain, that pain, your health is not 100%. And what is happiness is when you don't feel yourself, when you think of how to help others. This is the moment when it really keep you alive and keep you giving. So my question to you is, what, now we before the Rosh Hashanah, what practical advice? What we can take?
I think so. Yeah, it's a very good idea to give practical advice. So again, forgive me, but I'm all about stories. I'm a storyteller.
All our life is about one big story, right? And
Right. I answer questions with stories because they stay with us. I think that lectures don't, but stories do. This is actually a true story that happened in Israel. Only in Israel this could happen. But there was a bus that was number 45, and it broke. And people were evacuated kind of in the middle of nowhere. And they were told that another number 45 will come and pick them up very shortly. But, like over an hour went by and the bus is not coming. And people are so angry and disappointed and upset and tired. And suddenly they see a bus number 30 approaching, and they wave and the bus stops and they say, please, we're stranded. Can you take us to the nearest city? And then there we'll figure it out, but we're in the middle of nowhere. And the bus driver, no problem. You can hop on and I'll take care of you. And as they were so grateful, they were so cheerful, they just showered the person with blessings, the driver. And then they got off, they looked back and they see this was bus 45. So he just changed the number for a minute when he approached them. So of course they said, what's going on? When we were stranded, you approached us as number 30, but now we see you are that replacement bus number 45. What's going on? So the bus driver said, you see, I was late because I was stuck in traffic. Because you expected me, you would be very upset, and the entire bus ride you would be cursing me and saying negative things and how I'm a terrible driver and how you deserve better. But because you thought I didn't really belong, I'm number 30, I have nothing to do with you, it's not my problem. But here I am, a savior. I'm here to save you. All I got for an hour is blessings and water and gratitude and wonderful singing and anything to thank me. So I think in life, when we approach our reality, we should not think that we are entitled. This is not bus 45. We should think of it as bus 30. No one owns us anything. Of course, it's okay to have minimal expectations from our loved ones. We're not talking about extreme situations, abuse or whatever it is, but we're talking about everyday life. You don't wake up and say, who is going to do what for me? Just the opposite. You're going to wake up and say, what can I bring to the world? And then as you go through life and connect to others, you think of them as bus 30 that is there to save you and there to do you a favor. They have no responsibility to make you happy. They have no responsibility to entertain you or help you fulfill your mission. They are there doing their own thing. And if you realize that and you don't demand or expect, but help them, they eventually will hopefully do the same and replicate your behavior. But I think that allegorical story about the buses, only in Israel, but this is actually a true story. Someone witnessed that. They were one of the passengers. But I am still on bus 30, and I try not to get off it and be grateful for everything that comes my way.
This is really so beautifully said. Gratefulness is the key for everything. And yesterday I had an interview with the son of Rabbi Steinsaltz, blessed memory,
Wow.
a giant, and he shared with me that when his father, Rabbi Steinsaltz, was teaching his grandson how to write to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So what was his lesson? He told him like this. So don't start with a request. Don't ask from the Rebbe. First of all, share with him your good news. Say thank you, and only after you're thanking and telling about the good news, only then you start asking. That's all about the gratefulness, and this is beautiful. This is a really beautiful idea. Another practical advice?
Sure, of course. Another practical advice is I think that we are all living either in the past of what was, either it was in a former Soviet Union or was it, in our youth or before Corona. We all have before something, whatever that point is. And many of us can't wait for this to end. And we're living in the future, whatever that means to our listeners or to ourselves. There was a story about, actually, again, it's a true story. In 1800s, a gentleman was imprisoned, and the guard told him for one day a year, you can get out. So he wrote to his rabbi and asked what day should it be. He thought maybe Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, or maybe his birthday, maybe his wife's birthday, maybe he would have a child. I don't know, but the big day. So the rabbi replied to him that the day you should get out is today, because all you have is today. This is your reality. We have August 10th about to end, entering into August 11th, right? So this is what our reality is about. We should not reminisce about the past. We should not worry about the future. We should be mindful about where we are. The person in front of us, that's the most important person. The time we're in, that's the most important time. This day, this time, and the place where we stand is holy, because that is our only place we hold.
This is so true and so deep. And as we say in the Torah, there's 4 names for the Satan. One name is the Satan. Second name is the evil inclination, Yetzer Hara. Angel of Death is the 3rd name. The 4th name of the Satan is tomorrow. When you postpone for tomorrow, this is the Satan. We need to do it now. We need to live the moment now, and not to stuck in our past, not to stuck and to live the moment. And I want to, when we're finishing now soon our conversation, I want to speak about one more moment. It's very important in our life. I remember another old joke about, that old couple that always wanted, they didn't want to. The husband wanted very much one time in his lifetime to go on a helicopter, and the wife didn't want to, and every time says, Sarachka, let's go to a helicopter. Says, listen, $50 is $50. We cannot allow ourselves such a pleasure. And then they celebrate 50 years of their marriage. As maybe now Sarachka says, no, it's $50 and $50. We cannot. And at some point they're already 80 years old, and they're going in Manhattan. And they're walking nearby the helicopter. And the husband sees, Sarachka, we're only 8 years old. I don't know when we're going to have another chance. Let's go one time in our life on a helicopter. And Sarachka answers, it's cost $50. And $50 is $50. We cannot do it. And the pilot heard him and says, guys, you're a looking nice couple. I have compassion. Go to me. I'm not going to charge you. But with one condition, you're going to be silent the whole way. Now, he was doing such crazy things in air. He wasn't feeling well after doing this, and it was such a silent in the back, nothing. And by then, when he finally landed, and he asked Abraham, the husband, says, Wow, you were so sudden. I was so amazed. One second, where's your wife? Where's Sarah? To be honest, she folded off. But I wanted to say something, but then I remembered that $50 or $50, so then I didn't say nothing. And this joke remind how so often in life we make from the $50. It's a big thing, and we forgot really what's about important in life and what's not important in life, what's less important. We forgot really about our values. We not always forget about what we really need to be concentrated. And I think this is now the time. It's a good time now, before Shoshana, to think really about. And I heard so much, and I'm sure you know this as well in our community. People saying, Rabbi, listen, you're a rabbi, you're a spiritual person, you go to shul, it's fine. We have a life, we have businesses, we have so many things. We cannot allow ourselves, we don't have the time. So I want to ask you, because you're a very spiritual person, you're also in a business, the combination of heaven and earth, what's the way? I know there's no one way, there's a many, but what helped you personally in this balance?
This is such a profound question, and all your questions are such deep and profound questions. Thank you so much for making me think. There is an interesting answer that about the Lubavitcher Rebbe meeting Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
so many titles, and
Thank God.
he was still a young philosophy student, and he came to interview the Rebbe, and then the Rebbe gave him all the answers. It took a long time. He was doing his research, and then the Rebbe says, I have one question for you. What are you doing for the Jewish life in, I think, Cambridge University? Only one question. What are you doing with your life for Jewish people, where you are, where you can possibly shine? That's the first part I'd like to address. When I read that, I wake up every day and I ask myself that question, imagining the Rebbe would ask me that. It's a very honest and authentic question. Sophia, well, now Sarah Esther, I try to embrace my Jewish name. It's not easy. It's a big transition. But what are you doing for the world, for the Jewish people, for your immediate circle, for your family, and for yourself today, right now? And to continue this story, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Lord, he said, the situation as a British Jew, the situation I find myself in, and the Rebbe interrupted him, which Rebbe never did because he was so well-mannered and polite and patient. And he said, we don't find ourselves in situations, we put ourselves in situations. See, I don't find myself in my life. I put myself in my life where I feel like I belong. I often fail, but I try again. And I'm consistent in one thing. I continue to try. And I continue to wake up every day and try not to succumb to despair. If I failed yesterday, I try to be positive about today. And I try not to live my life, thinking that I find myself in a situation. I try to empower my soul. I try to connect and speak to my soul. And just to finish off my answer, I'd like to say that, there's a beautiful story about every generation adding a zero to our significance. So if you're a one and your Bobbies and Daddies and great-grandparents, they were great people, then you're, 1 million, 20 mil, 1 billion, a lot of infinite number of zeros, not infinite, but a lot, right? Huge numbers. But if you're not one, if you're not a chad, I want to make sure everybody understands. Если ты не один, если ты себя ничего не представляешь, то ты просто куча нулей. So all those people that lived before you, they gave you an opportunity to excel, to put that one in front of the many zeros. If you have not become that one, that their potential has been kind of wasted because, they have lived and they gave you legacy and they gave you their wisdom, genetic wisdom, and they remain part of the Jewish nation. And you have responsibility to them, to yourself, and to each other, and to the world to add your one. So if we wake up every morning and we want to be that one attached to all those zeros of glamorous, wonderful, resilient people that lived before us, then I'm sure we will succeed in the new year and today.
This is so beautifully said and so inspiring, and I want to thank you so much. And when you said these very inspiring words, I remember two short stories that's so connected. One is when was a Jew that came to Lubavitcher Rebbe and asked him, Rebbe, my family was killed in the Holocaust. I don't know what to do. The Rebbe told me you need to marry again. He says, I can't. And then the Rebbe told him, anything left from them? And he looks at the Rebbe and says, no, nothing. They all was burned. And then he says, the Rebbe answered him, you're wrong. You left with the love, and you need to continue this love. And this is the love that we show how you continue for your Babi Zelda, and how every one of us, when we do any mitzvah, we continue how they was keeping kosher, how there was our Babis and Zaydis, how they was starving days just to do it, how they was hiding in the dungeons to study Torah and whatever else, or just to stay Jewish. We continue the neshamas, we continue the love, and I'm sure and I see and I enjoy how you do it every day. And the other story was about and the other story was about the great Baal Shem Tov, when he was asked once, what is hell? And the Baal Shem Tov said that hell is the moment when you go up in heaven after 120 years, and they show you your image above, what you could do, how God see you, your talents, your powers, everything what you have in life, how much you could do in life and what you did with it. This is what's called image below. And when your soul up in heaven after 120 years and you see everything what you was able to do and you see how you wasted it, this is what we call hell. This is what we call shame. The shame, this is the hell. So we wish ourselves before Rosh Hashanah that our image below will be a little bit closer to really our unlimited image above, and that we always will have the power to continue the love of our great-grandparents for so many generations. So I want to thank you for reminding us about this, for telling these inspiring stories, your personal stories, and so many stories of our also Babis and Zaydis, all the that you said about. So I want to thank you so much, and I want to wish you in this upcoming year to continue this love and to inspire so many people around us, always to be a little bit closer to our image above in this upcoming year. Sophia, anything? Sophia, Esther, Sarah, anything for?
Thank you so much. I would like to bless all of us, or our listeners, and each other, and all Jewish nation, really the entire world, with light. And I think we're all in a point in life where we're able to rise. And this is a time when a seed is put in the ground before it flourishes to become a beautiful tree or a rose. It has to decompose. Perhaps that cleansing is happening to all of us right now. And this too is for the good, and it is good. And I believe that the new Jewish year is going to bring wonderful goodness and light and clarity to all of us.
Amen, amen. Kini ratzon shel b'ktiva v'chatima tova to all of us. And as said once beautifully the Rebbe, the secret to have a good new year, we coming to Hashem says we don't deserve it, but we says, Hashem, I don't deserve it, but please help us to help others. And then Hashem gives all the blessings. So thank you so much. And may Hashem help you to help others, many, many, and all of us. With us was Sophia, Sarah, Esther Tumarkin, a great and colorful Jewish soul. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Spasiba Gomne. Thank you very much.
Spasiba.
Thank you everyone who joined us today. And I want to remind you that we're going to have a special Rosh Hashanah preparation on next Monday evening with the famous cantor Rabbi Laskin, a secret of how to have a successful year on Rosh Hashanah, Al Pi Kabbalah. So going to be a lecture and a concert of me and Rabbi Laskin on Monday, 8 o'clock. A great preparation for this new year, and wishing you all Ktiva v'chatima tova. Thank you very much again. Thank you.